Buenos días, queridos alumnos de Cela Spanish School Online. Bienvenidos a una nueva videoclase. In today's lesson, we will explain the conjugation and use of the imperfecto de subjuntivo. For students who have not followed our courses, we recommend first work with our videos about presente de subjuntivo. This video is also available in Spanish. I recommend you to watch the Spanish version as well. The videos of our channel are part of the material of our teacher-assisted distance learning courses. There are two forms of the imperfecto de subjuntivo in Spanish. The forms with the ending ara y era, which is the most common in the spoken language. For example, trabajara, comiera, viviera, and the hace y ese forms that Spanish inherited from Latin and that have hardly undergone transformation and is used more in the formal or cultural language. For example, trabajase, comiese, viviese. Both forms are used in Spanish, but the most common is the ara y era form, although there are speakers who also use the hace y ese form. Often the same person alternates two forms. I prefer to use the ara y era form. Let's conjugate. We will conjugate the regular verbs. Trabajar, trabajara, trabajaras, trabajara, trabajáramos, trabajarais, trabajaran. Since the first person singular yo and the third person singular él, ella, usted are identical, we must often clarify who the subject of the sentence is by using a personal pronoun to avoid misunderstandings. Nosotros trabajáramos has a tilde because the word ends in ese and does not have the tonic syllable on the penultimate syllable as usual in Spanish, but on the penultimate syllable. So it must be marked with a tilde. The accents mark the exceptions of the natural pronunciation of Spanish. You can see more on the subject in our video on accentuation. Comer, comiera, comieras, comiera, comiéramos, comierais, comieran. And vivir, viviera, vivieras, viviera, viviéramos, vivierais, vivieran. Here in this table, we have highlighted the endings. As you can see, verbs ending in er and ir have the same conjugation. Here is the other form. Trabajar, trabajase, trabajases, trabajase, trabajásemos, trabajaseis, trabajasen. Comer, comiese, comieses, comiese, comiésemos, comieseis, comiesen. Vivir, viviese, vivieses, viviese, viviésemos, vivieseis, viviesen. We always said that in Spanish, each tense has different irregular verbs. However, we can talk about certain lines of irregularity. For example, verbs that are irregular in the presente de indicativo are also irregular in the imperative, imperativo, and in presente de subjuntivo. Verbs that are irregular in the pretérito indefinido o pasado simple of the indicativo are also irregular in imperfecto de subjuntivo. Unlike the indicative mood, indicativo, in which we use two past tenses, indefinido and imperfecto, in the subjunctive mood, modo subjuntivo, there is only one past, the imperfecto de subjuntivo, which we are learning today. The verbs ser and ir have the same form in the pretérito indefinido del modo indicativo. Fui, fuiste, fue, fuimos, fuisteis, fueron. In the imperfecto de subjuntivo also. Fuera, fueras, fuera, fuéramos, fuerais, fueran. For the conjugation of the imperfecto de subjuntivo, we can take as a reference the third person plural of the pretérito indefinido, fueron. Fueron, fuera, fueras, fuera, fuéramos, fuerais, fueran. Here we have the conjugation of estar. Estuviera, estuvieras, estuviera, estuviéramos, estuvierais, estuvieran. And decir. Dijera, dijeras, dijera, dijéramos, dijerais, dijeran. hacer. Hiciera, hicieras, hiciera, hiciéramos, hicierais, hicieran. Traer, trajera, trajeras, trajera, trajéramos, trajerais, trajeran. All verbs that are irregular en the pretérito indefinido del indicativo are irregular en the imperfecto del subjuntivo. Now, let's talk about when we use the imperfecto del subjuntivo. In the lesson on the subjuntivo, we said that we use the subjunctive in a subordinate clause when in the main sentence we speak of an expectation about the action of another. The expected action of a subject other than the subject of the main sentence is in the subjunctive. Por ejemplo, quiero que mi hijo estudie en Europa. I want my son to do something, study in Europe. What I want my son to do is in the subjunctive. If I have the same sentence but in the past tense, the verb must also be in the past tense in the subordinate clause. Quería que mi hijo estudiara en Europa. In the main sentence, we can have the verb in any of the past tenses of the indicative mood, indefinido o imperfecto. Quería que mi hijo estudiara en Europa. O quise que mi hijo estudiara en Europa. Whether to use the indefinido or the imperfecto depends on what the speaker wants to say. If you refer to an action in the past, you will say quise. If you refer to a situation in the past, you will say quería. I recommend you watch the video on the difference between the indefinido and the imperfecto in our channel. It is very simple. We can also use the imperfecto del subjuntivo in sentences with ojalá. Ojalá tuviera tiempo de ir contigo al cine. I use the imperfecto to express that I do not have time. It is an impossible action for me. I would like to, but I cannot. On the contrary, if I say ojalá tenga tiempo de ir al cine contigo with presente de subjuntivo, I am organizing myself to have time. Or I think I can have time. There is a possibility. Another very common use of the imperfecto de subjuntivo is in conditional sentences after the particle si. To talk about actions or situations that are unrealistic or impossible at the moment. Si tuviera tiempo, me iría de vacaciones. No tengo tiempo, no me iré de vacaciones. But if I say, si tengo tiempo, me iré de vacaciones, I am doing my best to free myself to go on vacation. After si, we use the presente de indicativo. We never use presente de subjuntivo after si. If we talk about a plan in the future, we use cuando más presente de subjuntivo. Cuando tenga tiempo. I recommend you to watch the video of the use of presente de subjuntivo in sentences with cuando. The conditional sentences of impossible actions are formed with si, imperfecto de subjuntivo y condicional. Si tuviera tiempo, me iría de vacaciones. Some speakers use the imperfecto de subjuntivo 2 times. Si tuviera tiempo, me fuera de vacaciones. In my opinion, it is not a good style, but it is accepted as correct as well. In general, there is a tendency to substitute the conditional for the imperfecto de subjuntivo. Muy bien. Now, let's do some exercises together. We will place the corresponding form of the imperfecto de subjuntivo in the blank space. Queríamos que el hotel tuviera una piscina, pero no pudimos encontrar ninguno así en ese lugar. The verb is tuviera. We speak in the past tense of a condition that the hotel was expected to have. Era lógico que el avión saliera con retraso con este clima. We give our opinion on an action in the past of the plane. Las relaciones serían mejores si la gente se preparara para manejarlas. Here we have a conditional sentence. The condition is si la gente se preparara. And the probable action is las relaciones serían mejores. Ojalá pudiéramos irnos de vacaciones al Caribe. Es una lástima que tengamos que trabajar. We talk about something impossible in this moment. Muy bien, queridos alumnos. This was our class today. Now we will continue working with the exercises and activities in our course material. If you are not yet a CELA student, we invite you to visit our webpage for learning more about our distance courses with teacher assistance. Chao, hasta la próxima clase.